Hey everyone, welcome back to day two of the free 5-day star hiring challenge. Appreciate you stepping back in on day two. We've got an important aspect of today's uh, challenge is to talk about the job posting and the mindset shift that that I'm going to ask you to make along the way here to help you be more successful. And so there's a couple of things that I want to cover beforehand. There were some questions from that I received from the live stream through LinkedIn last night. So I want to cover that. And I want to talk about the reason for doing this. Again, is to help as many people as possible change how they're doing their hiring and to hire better salespeople. And once we have better salespeople, it's so much easier to run a sales team. It's so much easier to create accountability. Those things require, as we talked about yesterday, some patience, some understanding of what's going on in the economy, and the ability to attract candidates that really are a good fit for us and for them in the role, right? So, and that's what we're going to cover as part today is the job posting that the framework that we use is designed to attract um, the candidate that really is a good fit. That it'll make it easier and it'll help us uh, uh, attract the right people and repel the other people. There's always going to be people that are just going to throw spaghetti against the wall and throw their resume out there without really looking into things. And we can quickly get rid of those people, and we should. But the first part of this is we're going to talk about is the mindset shift. Um, so I want to just acknowledge the fact that I sound like a frog. The head cold has gone completely into the vocal cords, the throat, and I have this. Somebody told me this morning this late night FM DJ voice, which they thought was attractive and amusing. I find annoying, just because in my whole head it vibrates. So one of the things that I wanted to offer here along the way is I wrote a book, which you probably won't be able to see very easily there, but it's the 7 critical mistakes CEOs make with their sales organization that cost them from scaling. And one of the mistakes that I get into in the book is in chapter 5, that it's about sales hiring, and it has a lot to do with what we have here. So if you have an interest in the book, I'm going to give away. It's available on Amazon for purchase, but I will send anybody who wants a copy of that. I'll send it to them. All you need to do is drop your name and address either to me in an email or into the comments, and my team will be able to get that to me, and we'll get a copy of the book out to anybody that wants it. Because the book was written not to be a New York Times bestseller, and it was there to help CEOs. And the feedback that I got from the CEOs that I gave this to prior to publishing was really what I was hoping for. That it's a simple book that cuts to the chase. of like, yes, I'm experiencing that problem. You've described what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. And then I help them understand what they need to do to fix it. So that's the gist of this, really, is to like, this is a problem that you might be experiencing, and the solution might not be what you think it is. And it has a lot to do with the analogy of, you go to see your doctor because your knee is hurting you, and it's been hurting you for a while, and you're just really frustrated with it. And the doctor doesn't come in and start doing surgery on your knee, right? They ask you some questions. They might ask you to uh, walk around. They might poke around a little bit with themselves with your knee. They might run some other tests on it. They might even take an image, MRI or an X-ray. And what might happen is that your knee is not the problem. Your knee is sore and inflamed, but it's your hip that's actually causing the problem. And that's one of the things that we get into in the book, is the thing that you're experiencing, the symptom that we're feeling, isn't always the thing that we need to treat. Right. So treating the knee in this situation might take some of the inflammation away. We might be able to do some anti-inflammatories, right, to knock that down. But really, we got to fix the hip, and that's one of the things that we focus on with each one of the problems. And sales hiring is one of those problems that I discuss in the book, and we're talking about that here. With it's not necessarily the candidates, it's not necessarily the interview process. It's the whole package about hiring people the same way we hire everyone else in the organization. So we want to flip that switch. We want that mindset to change, and we want to follow a different process. So let me get to the questions. I think I put these in the slides. So one of the questions we had yesterday was, I went through these: competition, hostility, resistance, rejection, lack of control, and the timing that salespeople have to experience. And these are things that salespeople experience that other employees don't, and we need to take into account when we're going through the interview process. So the question I had from somebody in the live stream on LinkedIn, they really weren't sure about what I meant with timing. And I did a poor job of explaining the timing aspect of it. So let me take another swing at it here. And that's salespeople are, especially these days, are invited into the sales cycle. They're invited in by a buyer later in the process. They're asked to become part of this purchase decision or this buying decision after the buyer has done a lot of research. They have a lot of information. They've done what I'm asking salespeople to do, they've qualified people on what they think they need. They've disqualified people because they're not of a certain standard, or they're not of a certain size, or they didn't see something that they wanted in their digital research. So because we're invited in later in this traditional sense, when we have a salesperson that's not doing a lot of hunting, that buying process, they really need to be much more consultative in their approach. They need to get control of that buying process again by asking some really tough questions, by getting that buyer to think about their problem a little bit differently, to think about the problem in a way that their solution is going to provide a better outcome for this buyer. So and because they're presented, they're brought into this process so late in the game, they're often um, they're baited into doing a proposal or doing a demo, or providing a sample quickly right out of the box. And I think that is something salespeople love to do, is go talk about their product, go do the demo. We have some clients that are in the MSP space, and we have some that are that have a product that they can demonstrate and they can provide samples. And we should be happy to do the demo. We should be happy to provide samples, sure, but only after we've qualified this buyer. and to make sure that what we're doing is actually going to help move something forward for us rather than our competitors or for them to stay in the status quo. So being able to discern whether the salesperson has the consultative skills to be able to enter into a sales cycle later and take control of that process. That's really, really important. And that's one of the things that we'll be able to discuss tomorrow, that we help you understand about the candidates that you're looking at, the candidates that are being brought forward. Can they sell consultatively? Right? We can look at what their motivation is. We can understand if they're good qualifiers, right? There's 21 core competencies that we'll be able to help you identify and determine if it's a strength or a weakness for this candidate. And does that really kind of cause a problem for you for you being able to manage this person or being able to have this person be successful or to ramp up quickly? So that's what I meant by timing. We're brought in later. So by being brought in later, we're going to be asked to just go do that demo and proposal. And we really need to be stronger and be able to take control of that and say, yeah, we're happy to do that, but let me ask you a couple of questions. And then we get back into the consultative process. So I hope that helps. I think that was Steve who asked that question. So if you're on there, Steve, hope that gives you a better sense of timing. The other let me go back to this. The lack of control was another question. I think that was Stephanie, and Stephanie, you were correct that in the way you described the lack of control is that the buyer is trying to control this, and has a lot to do with the timing. And if we don't, step in there and create some upfront agreements with the prospect and start to identify what's going to happen and how it's going to happen and what the steps are, then we're going to default to their process. And that process that the buyer is bringing to the table is not really good for us, right? We're just going to be very responsive and reactive, and we want to be proactive and be able to set the stage. We want to help them. We want to give them all the information they need, but we want to make sure we're not just giving them everything all at once and let them go sort through it, and then we have no more leverage. So I think those address those two questions. So I'd like to jump into the mindset piece here. So I'm going to leave this slide up because mindset, it's really simple. We're going to challenge these prospects throughout this process. It starts with how we write the ad. It starts with the way we think about the role, and when we're going to figure out what they need to do really well. That's what we talked about yesterday. So being able to take that same mindset and being clear about what it is that we're looking for, now we can apply that to this role. And we need them to be able to do these 3 things or these 5 things. We need them to have a certain experience level within the areas that we're looking for, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that they did exactly the same thing, but did they call on the same people that we need them to call on here? So I think this is part of what we're reviewing from yesterday, being able to think differently about this from the giddy up. We're going to be clear about what it is that we're looking for. So, and when we start this process of looking at resumes and looking at the findings from the assessment and doing a phone screen with somebody, this is where we sometimes run into some trouble with folks who are like, oh, I can't do that. That's going to be a challenge for me. It's going to make me uncomfortable. Okay, I understand, but we're going to need to push through that. We're going to need to be able to get comfortable with being professional and polite, because that's the underlying theme here. We're always going to be professional and polite. We're always going to have some positive energy. So I like to tell a story at this point when I'm trying to help people understand this challenge idea. So I was working with a younger, she's been in the business maybe 7-8 years, real professional, had a very professional demeanor about herself, and she was a HR generalist, and she ran the HR department for this good sized security firm. And she had a lot of moving parts that she had to control. And she could be tough, she could be warm, she could be friendly, all of the things that we need to be in business. But when I told her that when we do this phone screen, we're gonna need to be have a slightly different mindset. She kind of pushed back on the idea, like, I don't know if I can do that. Um, and she understood that we needed to be tougher by how we reviewed resumes, and we had to be tougher in the interview process. That seemed to work for her, but it was just this having this phone conversation with somebody that she hadn't really met. She wasn't able to get her legs under her as it related to being able to be a little bit more discerning and disqualify people quickly. So what we did through that process was that she listened to me do a couple of phone screens, and we checked in, and she's like, she saw that it didn't make anybody uncomfortable, and she saw that one of the candidates sort of like his energy level went up, and he was much more positive as we were going through this, and he shared things in a clear and concise manner. So she started to get comfortable, and then we did a couple more, and then she's like, well, let me do a couple. And then all of a sudden she was off to the races, and she realized that it wasn't really doing anything difficult, and it wasn't doing anything to make them uncomfortable, the candidate uncomfortable, but we were trying to make sure that they followed our process and stayed on point, and we got the information that we were looking for. So when I say mindset shift, that's what I'm talking about. Let's just be open to looking at this differently, right? The role configuration that we looked at, that's part of it. The job posting that we're going to look at here in a moment, that's going to look wildly different than what we've done in the past. Excuse me. Sorry, but my throat is burning. So what we're going to run through here in a moment is to talk about the job posting, the framework. We're going to talk about, show you some samples of the ads, and I'm going to share a questionnaire that we can use that might help you be get ready for the job posting. The last thing I wanted to say was in the mindset shift is to stop selling the role, to not sell the company at the beginning of this process. And that's the second thing that folks have trouble with. In we get somebody on the hook, or we get somebody on a phone, or we get somebody in an interview, we immediately want to tell them how great our product is. We want to tell them how great our services are. And so in the interview process, it's the same thing. We want to talk about how great the company is, what our culture is, that we have these monthly events where everybody gets together and it's fun, and we just have a culture that's very teamwork oriented, and that's great, and that's true. Keep it in your pocket at the beginning. We want to understand certain things along the way. We don't need to sell this role until we find somebody who's really a fit, or who we're starting to think is a fit. And that's not going to be until we get through that first real interview. So that's the challenge for you, is to think differently about this, and stop pushing the how great the company is, and how great the role is, and how much money we could make in this. That's not what we're trying to do here. We have that, we know that, but let's figure out if this person is worthy of that role. Is somebody worthy of that type of consideration? Should we bring them in? And that's where we need to be more discerning, and be real clear. Again, all of the things that we've been discussing, we're going to keep building on each other, right? Make sure we're clear about what we want them to do. Can this person do that, right? And we're going to ask them some questions in a phone screen. So that mindset piece is going to be a thread that goes through here that we're going to need to challenge ourselves with as we move through. So let me switch screens here, and we will take this out. Let me go back here and share. Diana. Um, Here we go. Let's make sure this works. Um, so this will be, um, see if we can make this a little easier to read. So this document is something that we call a sales play. It's part of the package that will be in the workspace that you have access to. Um, so we break this framework into components, and we want to think about your what, your who, your target customer, the challenges that will be a part of this role, what skills do they really need to be successful here, and then anything else that's relevant in terms of their experience. So that's sort of the high level piece. So let's go back in here and look at this a little bit more clearly. Your what, this is going to describe your product or service, your offering, and what that looks like. So if we're selling fire alarm systems, or if we're selling promotional products, or if we're selling high-end landscaping services, right? We want to be able to speak to that broadly, and we want to think about that that product and service from a bigger space. What do those people, where should they have come from, where they're going to have the same types of experiences? And I think it's not just the widget that we sell, it's not the service that we sell. In a security world, it's cameras and card access and um, Berg equipment, right? But let's step back from that and think about it from a bigger perspective. What else might they be able to be part of, and how do we describe that? That's a big component of that. As we talk through this, it'll become more clear. Your who is the people that this candidate is going to call on, the decision makers, the people that can say yes, not the procurement people that can easily say no and make it more difficult, but the people that are going to be able to have own this problem, that may or may not own the budget, but are going to be able to drive this decision. Those are the people that we want to be able to describe. And sometimes that's a title. Sometimes it's if you're in the B2C world, right? It might be a living room sale, or a husband and wife, the head of household, right? Those are the folks that we're describing as to who we need to be able to reach. In certain B2B spaces, it could be a director level, it could be a C-suite, right? We might have to speak to the CFO. It might be a committee of people that we need to engage with. So we need to be clear about that. We need to understand what that looks like so we can describe that situation. And let's not worry about the nuance. Let's not worry about the gray areas there, because in the typical situation, when we have the ideal scenario, that's what we're looking for here. So if they're in the B2B space and they need to be calling on the director level of the IT department, or they need to be speaking to the VP of finance, that's what we need to talk about in the ad. We need to be clear about who that person is. Excuse me. And the target customer, where are they? It's the market segment, the vertical, the industry that they're in. Those are the things that we need to speak to broadly in the ad, and that will come. I think I'll make more sense when I give you a sample of the ad where we're looking at that market segment. But we're calling on the construction industry. We're calling on the bid market. We're calling on the affluent homeowner. We're calling on the HR department, or we're looking at the marketing department, right? This is kind of the target customer, and what do they look like? How big are they? Is it headcount? Is it revenue? And those are the things that we want to look at. We're looking at the small market. We're looking at the big companies. So we need to be able to tell the candidate, who their targets are. And what are the challenges they're going to face? Let's be honest and put that in the ad. Most job ads for sales isn't going to tell them the things that are going to be difficult that they're going to face. Let's put it on the table. Let them know that we're being open and honest about what this is going to be. We're not the cheapest price in the market. We may not be the highest priced, but we're not the least expensive option. So, and we're in a competitive market. These are things that we should share, that helps that salesperson understand. I know how to sell value. I don't want to be the cheapest price, right? That's who we're trying to attract. And I think by having the right words in here and the right structure, we're attracting the people that we want. When they're self-identifying, right? I know that market. I know those people. I understand that marketplace. I might not understand that specific product and that specific company, but I understand that market segment and I know how to navigate that. Um, so in a former life, we sold fire alarm systems, and I would be looking for people that, from a sales perspective, new sales candidates. I didn't necessarily need them to sell fire alarm equipment. I wanted them to be able to navigate the construction industry because we sold into that bid market. I wanted them to understand that they had a very small opportunity to differentiate themselves, and that they had to be able to speak to the various buyers along the way. So I didn't care if they sold fire alarm systems or if they sold HVAC systems or some other system-oriented control piece, right? The carpet guy probably didn't help me, but the people that sold some sort of control system had some complexity to it, and they had to sell into engineers, deal with some architects, deal with some facilities guys, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? So and we were going to be higher priced, and we were going to provide value. So I wanted that in my ads. And then the some of the skills, we don't need to list all of the skills that the candidate needs, right? We want to keep a short and concise ad, but we want to be able to help them understand that they're going to handle the whole sales cycle, that they're not going to have to do project management, that they are going to handle top of the funnel to closing, or they're going to have leads handed to them that they have to close, and they have to close at a high percentage. Whatever that is, we want them to understand that, and that those skill sets that they're going to need to be able to do that, we need to identify in the ad. So if somebody's getting some leads and they're expected to close a high percentage of those that are closable, then this person needs to be able to qualify people quickly, right? If your services are $50,000 for let's just say a landscaping of somebody's outdoor living space, and your average deal size is in that $35,000 to $55,000, well, then we don't necessarily want to be talking to somebody that has a budget of $5,000 to $10,000 to build a patio, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't fit our market. So we want that sales candidate to be able to discern that quickly. So that's something that we're going to have to suss out during interviews, but we want to put it up in front here in the job posting and make sure that they're aware of that. And then sometimes there's things that are a nice to have, that we want to have, that's related to this, to success in the position. We want somebody that has a certain certification, or that they've worked well within an association, or they've been to certain types of trade shows, or that they understand the problems of navigating a K through 12 market, right? So those are things that we can add into the job posting that will add a little nuance to it without cluttering it up. So what I have here is the second half of this document is almost a fill in the blank of how to create a job posting in the STAR format. And if you fill in these pieces and just kind of put in the chunks of words that give you the who, the what, the decision makers, the types of challenges that we just went through, if you just plop those into this structure, then you're probably like 85% of the way there. Now it's a little wordsmithing. It's to make sure that the grammar makes sense and the context is all right. And then we have this structure here that allows you to make it your own, to put it in your company's voice. Sometimes some companies want to be a little bit more friendly, and some companies are a little bit more authoritative and black and white. So put that in your ad, in your own nuance. Um, the other thing that we have in here is that if you have, not every company requires um, travel, and how much travel is there in terms of a percentage. That if that's there, then we should have that. And if you're in a space where there is no travel, and sometimes there is, then you want to make sure that you say no travel required or no overnight travel required in the role, so that you're differentiating yourself from some of your competitors, because that might be an advantage. Um, and then this last phrase is that we need you to earn more than blank. All right, so let me explain on target earnings. Um, on target earnings is if this sales candidate is at the end of your onboarding, at the end of their training period, at the end of their ramp up period, whether that's 90 days or 6 months or 12 months, whatever that period is, when you think they should be hitting their stride and meeting the revenue number on a consistent basis, that being monthly, then if they're doing that, they should be earning X. So that's on target earnings, because they're doing the things that you asked them to do, and those things are creating opportunities that they can close. So with the normal win rates that you have, the normal amount of prospecting that's part of this, what can they expect to earn? And you want to have a realistic number here. You don't want to inflate it, and you don't want to deflate it. So if you're looking for somebody that should be able to be comfortable earning 125 to or $150,000, right? That's going to say something to people that are looking for a role. If you have somebody that's straight out of college, that hasn't earned any income in their first or second job yet, right? That might deter them, and that might be something that we need to deal with in terms of if a graduate could be of help to you, and if they could get to this earnings. But that bracketing is going to tell people, no, I need to earn 250,000, so this job obviously isn't for me. Right. So that's helping us disqualify people that we don't want to talk to, because they're not going to sign up. So let's not waste our time. Let's not waste their time. Right. It's a mutual thing. So you need the on target earnings number to be accurate. We want it to be something that we can show them later on. If you do all of these things right, you can get to $125,000 a year within 12 months. And here's how you do it. Boom, boom, boom. Right? That's what we're looking for. Don't underinflate, don't overinflate. So this format, this document, what I'm going to tell you is this takes practice. You're going to it's going to take you a couple of times to develop the rhythm, develop the ability to follow that structure. So fill in the blanks with the basic words is the first step, and then set it aside for an hour or two, and then come back to it and start to connect the dots, start to smooth it out. So here's the offer for that. If you do that, if you're looking at a fill in a position either right now or down the road, um, go ahead and fill out that block and take a swing at it. I'm not going to write the ad for you, but if you take a swing at it, and you send it to me via email, I will take a look, and I will help you move it along, to advance that, to help you understand like what piece isn't clear, what piece needs to be more clear, and I'll collaborate with you on that. We can do that through email, and if you're serious about something, we could probably jump on a quick call. But if you take the effort to do that, I'll help. And I think tomorrow, if one of our guests is willing to take a swing at that and show us what they've accomplished, we'll have a real live opportunity here, to take a look at what somebody's trying to do with a real job in a real world and taking a swing at this. So that's the offer. Do that. Put it in an email. Get it to me. If you can get it to me tomorrow by noon, that would be helpful. That gives me a minute to take a look. No guarantee that I will have it all reviewed, but that'll get you in the hopper. So what I want to do here is show you a sample ad so that you know what this looks like. And I'm going to do that again here in a different way. But this is a nice, simple, clear way for me to demonstrate a sample of a good job posting that's written in the style of Star. And there's a title here: "Great company for an awesome sales professional." Wow, we don't want any awful sales professionals. So I'm not going to read through this whole piece, but if you look closely at this and you use this as a model for the ad that you want to write, you see all of the elements that I just described are in here. And the blue colored lettering is the nuance that this company added to give it some flavor for them, for what they thought that was important. So if you take a moment just to kind of read through this while I take a sip of water to help my throat. So the blue component is the things that they wanted, that were really, really part of their priorities that they needed. Integrity, that they needed to be a team player, that they wanted to highlight the fact that you could be the greatest salesperson in the world, but if you were an ass, they weren't going to hire you. And we don't say that specifically in here, but we come close. That you're a top producer, but recognize you're part of a team who collaborates and for the best solution for our prospects. And these are the other things that they needed to be great at, because they put a lot of value on gathering business intelligence about how a company operated, and that was going to help them down the road. So, but this is selling B2B integrations, right? We're not talking about security system. It's integrations within the systems that they have in their space. And we want them to have experience calling on business owners and director levels, with engineered building systems and technology products. So that opens up the space quite a bit, rather than just saying you got to have security. You have to sold cameras before, or you've had to have sold fire alarm systems before. We're opening that up, but it's calling on the same kind of people. The correlation to the industry, to the decision makers. This is what we're trying to focus on here. We want them to be hunters. They want to thrive in a competitive marketplace. So I would encourage you to take a look at this and focus on, the components. And you could steal language, right? This doesn't have to, you have to reinvent the wheel every time. And these folks, they have a variable comp plan, and $110,000 is what they expected their people to earn, and when they were performing. And they have people that are earning 300,000, but that's not realistic for a new hire. So let's talk about what's realistic. And somebody that's been around the block for 12, 15 years, they can be earning $300,000 because they've built a book, and that they know how to go out and open up new book and get referrals, and introductions. So this is in the materials that you have access to. Please feel free to peruse this and use the framework piece and go back and forth. So this document here is a way to help you start to understand, to get the data, to be able to answer the questions, to do the framework properly. And why did I do this backwards, right? Because I talked about the framework, and then I was like, okay, here's the questions we ask ourselves to get there. These questions are more meaningful if you really think about what it is we're trying to get to. If you understand the framework and you understand why we're getting here, these questions will help you cut to the chase. It will help you get to the point that you really need to get to. And these roles, not these roles, but these questions are going to help you figure out the who, figure out the what, figure out those special skills, figure out the industry that they need to be in. And it helps you like kind of zoom out a little bit and look at yourself from a 30,000-foot level, and review this with some review this role and what you're trying to accomplish in a at a higher level. So then you can kind of zoom in because you have a better understanding of the topography of the role and in the framework. So again, these are available to you. I'm going to stop the share here, and I'm going to just flip this switch around here. Bear with me just a moment, folks. So there's one other document that you're going to be able to have access to that I think is just a different way for you to process the same information. I'm trying to provide various ways of saying the same thing so that it lands with everybody. So this document, it breaks down and sort of gives you a checklist of the things that we talked about within the framework. You know, who's that ideal candidate? What are their experiences, right? These are the things that we want to get through. You can add things to this document because it's a link, and it allows you to track this and modify it along the way. It's sort of a checklist. We'll see that on Friday with the onboarding docs. So here's a poorly written job posting, and then the same job posting written within the framework that we're talking about with STAR. And if you see here, it's really a financial advisor that has, if they do their job well and they create a revenue for the company, they have a chance to become an equity partner. And if you look at this, independent financial advisory firm has an opportunity for a top producer in the field to join our partnership track. Right. So that's speaking sort of generically about what could happen, what might happen, but without any specificity. So this is an equity opportunity for a top producer, right? We're not screwing around. You can have equity in this company if you earn it. That's what that says. You have to have prior experience selling high ticket business services to business owners, right? So they're going to want somebody that doesn't necessarily have financial services experience. That would be fine, right? As they move on down here, financial experience helpful, as you see in the second to bottom line, but they want somebody that's called on the people that are going to buy 401ks. They want the people that are going to care about their financial future. They're going to people that are going to want to figure out an exit strategy. So, and they have resources. They're high net worth folks. So it doesn't matter if they've got all these bad habits coming from another financial advisory firm. They're looking for somebody that's called on high ticket sales. That's what they're looking for here. And you excel at finding and closing business, which tells somebody that you're going to handle the whole sales cycle, right? So we want a top producer that wants long-term situation, right? Because if you're a top producer and you're looking for an equity position, you're not looking to jump around. You're looking to stick around and do it for a period of time so they recognize you and they move you forward. Bachelor's degree, they don't even care, right? It's a plus, right? If you've done the right things and you can do the right things, that's what matters. And they need your earnings to exceed 150,000. So if you've been around that business, you know what that means, what you have to do to earn 150,000. And that's not somebody that's been around the block for 10 years. That's somebody that's been out there for 3 or 4 years in the financial services business and hustling, and they're doing okay, and they want to get to the next level. And this is the kind of thing that's going to attract that person. That's growth. And if you really look carefully at these, you see that it's a different mindset that we're looking to. This is sort of like, yeah, this is what everybody says. And this is describing the person that, like, I want to get past this income level. I want to become, I'm a producer and I want to have equity. I want to be valued for what for what I do. Um, so this is a variation of an ad for the security company that we did some A/B testing with. And you can see here, there's a lot of similarities, but there's some differences. And the other thing that I think is important to note is that when we're doing job postings, we want titles that grab people's attention, and we want more than one title. I really recommend to my clients that we're doing job postings, that we don't run them straight for a month. We run them for 3, 4, 5 days, shut it down, change the title, and move that title around, and that kind of moves how it looks on the job posting service. They look at it as a new ad, so it goes back up in the top. I also recommend that we sponsor these ads. We spend you know, somewhere between $8 and $12 a day on sponsoring. If we've tested some ads and we start to understand that they're working, one's working better than the other. Some titles might work better than others. And you know your company, you know your market. What's the language you should be using? What do you really want to say? That title is an attention grabber, and don't minimize the value of it. It's important to get somebody's attention. So again, this is just another way to break down. The first part of the framework is, the what and the who. That's all right here, and we just break this through the framework in the steps that's in the first document that we went through, and then I give you an example of part of an ad, and then I break it down as to what we're trying to do, the psychology behind it, and I think this will help you as you build out your ad. And then here's the questionnaire that I referenced before as well. So I'm going to stop the share. I can't emphasize enough that this is different than what you've done in the past. It's not a list of accountabilities. It's not a list of responsibilities. You're literally describing what the person that you want will do. And if you go into this with that mindset and you're willing to struggle with it a little bit, it's harder than you think. And you need some practice with it. And I'm happy to help collaborate with you to get that to be on target for what it is what you need. And so if we have that conversation, I'm going to ask, what are the 3 things this person needs to do to be successful in the role, right? I'm going to try to understand the marketplace that they're calling on. And I've done enough of these over the years to be able to know that this market means that there's this size of other people within other industries that might be a fit. So I can help you with that component. But you have to help me understand if is it a hunting role, an account manager role? Is it a top of the funnel? Is going to be full and they just need to push it through the funnel, or they got to go do the whole spiel and go find the business and close the business. So that's all part of what what will happen with the collaboration. Let me just double check something here. We got the fundamentals. So again, if you go and take a swing at writing this, I'm willing to help. Tomorrow, we're going to focus a little bit on reviewing what we've done, as every day we'll review a little bit here. We'll answer some questions that I know that always come in after this session. And we're going to look at the assessment will be a big part of tomorrow, of how we use templates and scripts to save time and not reinvent the wheel every time, how this assessment will help you save a ton of time and to be very predictive about the process. And then we're going to dive into phone screen tomorrow. So there's like no wasted time tomorrow. We're going to just boom, 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 hit those pieces. It's sort of the critical component. Again, I remind you, if you want a free copy of the 7 critical mistakes that CEOs make with sales organization, the book I wrote, shoot me a note either on LinkedIn or email, and I'll get you a couple of copies of that for for posterity, and it's a great way to help you think about your business in a different way. So thank you. I will see you tomorrow at 7:30. Hopefully my voice is less of a late night DJ, FM DJ voice. So thank you very much. And if you want to hang for a second here, I'm going to end the stream and see you tomorrow, folks. Thank you.